All right, in this pseudocode reference video, we're going to look at the initialization of a list. And so in this video, we're going to look at the pseudocode reference for initializing a list. So the way that they're going to represent the initialization of a list in the pseudocode is they're going to come up with some sort of variable name, and in this case, they chose a list. And then if you remember from a previous video, this little arrow means assignment. And so they're going to assign it some values inside brackets, and they can have as many values as they want. And the block version is pretty much the same thing. The value 1, value 2, value 3, will be the things, the actual elements that are being put into the list. And so let's go ahead and see what that looks like in Snap and in Python. So let's go here and let's take a look at a variable called a list. Now currently a list is not in list format because in Snap it's a little bit tricky. What you got to do is you've got to go down here in the variables section, and when you're making a list you drag out your little list identifier here, and then if you want to initialize it you get to use these little arrows to create how many different elements you want. So I'll just go ahead and put numbers in this list, and I'll put the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now I'll snap this up into here. And so now when I run this variable and I initialize a list and I click this, you'll notice that this over here changed, and you can see it changed to a list with 5 elements. So this is the Snap way of creating a list called a list and initializing it with some initial data. And these things can be anything you want. They can be strings or numbers or whatever data type you want to use. But this is the format, and this is the way in which lists are created in Snap. And now let's look at what they look like in Python. So in Python, and you'll notice I just stood with the pseudocode reference. This is not how you declare variables in Python. Everything's lowercase, separated by an underscore. But just for convenience and consistency's sake, I'm using camel case notation here, because it'll still work in Python. And so all you do in Python when you're creating a list is you set it equal to the brackets, and then you separate each element by a comma. So this will load in integers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if I go ahead and run this cell to set a list up, and then I run this cell to show us what's in a list, we see that inside of a list it's a list of those numbers. So that is the way that you declare a list in Python and initialize a list in Python. And so if you go back and you look at the pseudocode, that's what this notation is meaning. Examples I've given you in both Snap and Python. I hope you found this information useful.